Hello, hello, hello. Hola, hola, hola. Welcome to a new episode of the Yoga for All Bodies video podcast. Today, I have an amazing guest for you. Allison Ray Jeraci is an international yoga educator known for her sense of alignment and endless and amazing yoga variations. Her background in various movement modalities informs her teaching, especially the unique ways of breaking down yoga philosophy and anatomy so that they are accessible, impactful, and spacious for her students. Welcome, Allison.
Thank you, Natalia. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so happy you're here. I love your work, and this is something every yoga teacher, every yoga student, everybody should know.
Absolutely.
Yes. So I would like to start asking you, how did you came to yoga? First thing, I have so many questions in my mind. But how did yoga came to your life?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I have a huge martial arts background before I entered into the yoga world. And so I was living in Costa Rica at the time. And I decided to move back to the United States. And I was like, well, I want to open up a dojo, but I'm not sure if people would want just karate. So I'll do yoga because everybody loves yoga. So I was very just uninformed about what yoga was. And I was taking yoga classes at the gym, and half the time I was actually really bored, but I was going every single day. But I just remember like watching the clock and being like, oh, when is this over? I know, it's that terrible. But anyway, so then I actually went to do yoga teacher training because I liked it enough to pursue it more. And I walked into the yoga studio for my training, and I just remember this moment of being like, what did I get myself into? Like, what am I doing? Like, this is nothing from the gym yoga that I was doing. So it was just such a remarkable experience, and it actually just kind of fused all of my movement modality loves into this one art form. And really what I think like caught my attention so much with yoga was that it was giving me names and terminology that I had experienced prior to that I never could really explain or put into words. So now it's like, I've been in states of dhyana, I've been in states of samadhi, or at least I think I've been in those states. And it's just very interesting because, you know, you think of yourself and you're you, but then there are these altered states, and just knowing that you're not alone in that path, and you're not alone in thinking that there's something else out there. And then it's kind of been history ever since then.
Amazing. And what style of yoga was that you felt that, oh, I want the class to end at the beginning?
It was vinyasa, and the first, I think, even prior to that, I had done like a couple of one-off classes. And I remember this one class, it was a hatha yoga class, and the shavasana seemed like it was 30 minutes long. It was probably only 10 minutes. It seemed like forever. And then it was the vinyasa classes that actually ended up getting really boring after a while.
Yes. So if you are a student and you're watching this video, know that happens, because every day is going to be different. How we receive the teachings, how we feel in our body is going to change every day.
Yeah.
So don't give up yoga only one time.
Keep going back.
Yes. Awesome. And all your teachings are based on variations. So I want to know, how did you came with that? Why? How that light inspired you?
Oh, such a good question. So I think I've just been really lucky. My first couple of classes that I was teaching, I was again teaching at a martial arts studio or dojo. And I just saw that things were inaccessible to my students. And when you work with different athletic populations, you start to see that, like, you know, they have beautiful warrior positions because that's what we do. They have beautiful warrior 3 because it's a back kick. You know, we've already practiced these things. But then you start to see other things like pigeon getting really funky, you know, for lack of better words. And so that's when I started to incorporate props, because the vinyasa style that I was certified in, we really didn't use props, or it was one of those like, if you need, or today we're going to be doing pigeon pose, so grab a blanket if you need it, something like that. So it wasn't very inclusive. And I think that's a common story, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Unfortunately, yeah. But and that script is changing. That script is absolutely changing.
Yes, that's amazing. That's why we're here.
Yes. So that was the beginning. And then I started working for a yoga studio who really just embraced props. So it wasn't even if you need, it was like, this is what we get. So when students come into your classroom, we get 2 blocks, a bolster, a blanket, and a strap. So that actually normalized it for many students. And because it was their first introduction to yoga, it was like, well, yeah, like that's what you do. And so they would go to other yoga studios and that wouldn't be the script. And so they'd say like, oh, that's weird that they're not going to grab props. I was like, oh, this is excellent. Yes. And then from there, you know, I just kept teaching, and there were things that were inaccessible to me. And so I was just trying to look for different ways. I ended up studying pretty seriously with Carrie Owerko. And when I had, you know, been introduced to her, she was working a lot with a chair. And I was like, I just got a chair a couple of months ago. Now I can like really learn what it is what the possibilities are. And so she really instilled this idea of what possibility can look like. You know, and just taking more Iyengar classes and reading and experimenting, exploring in my own practice and seeing what works, what doesn't work. And then really the ultimate test was introducing it to my classes. And so half of them would be like, oh, that was a mistake. Like, never mind. And then the other classes were like, oh my gosh, like now I love this pose, you know? And that's such a shift from, I don't do this pose, I don't like this category of poses, to Allison, I love this, because they added props. And it's like, it gives me chills right now, just like, you know, yeah.
What you're saying is so important. I would like, if you want, to give an advice to the new yoga teachers or yoga teachers that maybe are afraid to try new things, or they are afraid of maybe offering their students new things that maybe I always say the yoga police would say no. What is your advice?
Oh, break the rules, my friends. You know, I think that when it comes to yoga teaching and in our practice, how many times do we discover something and there's just this feeling inside of like, wow, this could change. Like, this has changed how I practice. This could change how somebody else practices. And then you get that overriding shadow of like, but a teacher never taught me this, or I've never seen this before, or people say that I shouldn't be doing that. And I really think that we need to listen from the inside to that voice of like, this is good. This can be impactful. This can be helpful. And so, like, trust your gut, trust your feelings, and normalize it, right? You can normalize it. You don't need somebody else from the outside to say, hey, using props is normal. Hey, making yoga accessible is what you should be doing. You can do that yourself.
Agree. Preach, preach, preach. Yes. And you always use props, of course, in your classes. So how was the change from in-person, real life, to the digital, to Zoom? What can you tell us about that experience?
Yeah, it was a fun experience. I have to say, like, I'm really enjoying it. I really do enjoy the shift. But there are definitely some obstacles and barriers when it comes to it, because I also believe, as much as I believe in props, props are also a privilege, and we don't often think about that. And so, and of course, because I have so many props, people can see all these elaborate setups, but it's a setup of privilege because I have 6 chairs, because I have 12 blankets, because I have all of this stuff, right? And so when teaching online, you start to realize that not all of those things are accessible. So how do you find, props within the home? And so, like, right now my computer's on my ottoman, but I did a side crow course, and I was like, you might not have a chair, but you can use an ottoman, you can use a sturdy table, you can use, all these different things that are around your house. And something really impactful that one of my teachers, Allison West, had told me was that once something is incorporated into the world of you using it as a prop, it will always be a prop. So now whenever I look at anything that I've used before, I was like, oh, that's really good for splits. That's really good for Warrior 2. That's really good for hamstring stretch, so everything becomes a creation.
Amazing. And in terms of your creation, how do you plan or how do you decide what poses are you going to teach? Because I've seen your social media and it's wild. It's not like forward fold. No, it's like today you're going to fly using your chair.
Yeah.
so how is that creative process?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. Things that I'm in tune with. So something that I'm practicing, something that I enjoy doing is usually what I will teach to some degree. So how can you break it down? Something that gets my feathers ruffled perhaps a little bit is kind of this idea of leveling, right? Like, these are basic poses, these are, intermediate poses, these are advanced poses. And yes, there are poses that are more intricate, but then it's like, well, why can't somebody that's just started the practice, or maybe somebody that's labeled themselves as a beginner and says, I only do beginner for 25 years. I'm like, you're more advanced than everybody. So why limit it? And I also believe that the brain needs novel input. So doing the same things over and over again can be very meditative, but it can also be boring. And I think that's why we leave the practice too. So how can I take something like flying pigeon and break it down to its essence so that everyone can explore it, right? And then, then can we do a little more complicated? Maybe we can do a reclining figure 4, right? And then maybe we can bring our hands up towards the ceiling. So if you flipped me right side up, I'd be in the arm balance, but now I'm on my back. And then maybe I can do it on my side. And then maybe I can do it on my hands. And maybe I can't, but maybe I can add a chair or some blocks. And that's kind of how that goes. I break it all down and then see where I can put it together. And when I teach it, you see who's there and what's happening, and you start from that so that everybody has that basic foundation and then can build upon that foundation or work, in the room that they're working in.
That is super important. What more can you tell us about really building from the ground up? Because I've seen so many classes that the teacher says, today we're going to do a flying pigeon, for example. And they start with the traditional version. And then they start seeing, that person can do this. And I think that's when the students feel discouraged. Because it's like, in case you need to modify, in case you can do this, do this. Right. So what can you say about that?
Yeah, I think to never take anything for granted, So when I come into a class, I'm not going to expect that somebody can do Warrior 2. I'm not going to expect that somebody can do downward facing dog. So whatever it is, I'm going to break it down. And so you might already, do that in your body, but then you might say like, wow, I never considered what I'm actually doing, right? I put myself into the shape, but I don't actually know if I can do this, if I can internally rotate or externally rotate my upper arm. I didn't know if I could bend my knees or not. I'm just so used to doing that, right? And so I think it's a nice shift for the student too, because they get to explore different parts of the asana practice. And then for those who are like, what is downward facing dog? Then it gives them the opportunity to build on that. So I would say never to take anything for granted, because you don't know. And maybe just because you see that somebody can do the shape doesn't actually mean that they want to be doing the shape. You know, there's been many classes where it's like, you know, I'm in a wide-legged forward bend. They know I'm a teacher, or they see my practice and they're like, oh, well, if you'd like to go into headstand, it's like, I really don't want to, but there is a part of me and my ego that's like, I can do it, so I guess I'll do it, you know. And that's just it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. So I like being directed. I like breaking things down. I like doing that for my students, and I encourage them to explore in it as they're learning, as they're sensing.
Love it. Yes, it's super important to give the power back to the person, to the student, because we are so used, even in daily life, to follow this. So sometimes in my classes, I make the experiment. When it's time for the resting part of class, I like to tell them, take a moment to notice what your body is asking you today. And I love seeing that some people open the eyes, what am I going to do now? But once they get used to that dynamic, they really take their power back, their choice, because it's your body at the end of the day. It's your mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And there's so much to learn from that. You know, it's like, we're so built with all these different patterns where it's like, we need to encourage more patterns, and then some patterns we need to unlearn. And it's always this process, but knowing that you have the power to make those decisions. And I think you're right that we've lost a lot of that. So it's unfamiliar, but we get better at what we practice. So if we practice giving ourselves back our agency, then we'll get better at our agency.
Yes. And would you say that you have more students that practice yoga, or yoga teachers that want to learn from you, or it's both?
I think it's both, but I do commonly get a lot of yoga teachers. And it's interesting though, because of, you know, we all come to the practice with different paths. And so a lot of the stuff that I teach, that I might teach to students who aren't yoga teachers, is information that the yoga teachers never got to begin with. And so I think it just works really nicely with that.
Amazing. And now a question that I make to all the guests. Yoga for All Bodies is all about variations, the same as you. I don't teach how to fly, but variations. So I want to know, what is your favorite prop and why?
Oh,
Only one.
only one. If I was on a desert island, which one would I take? I'd take the chair. What? Yeah.
Chair.
Yeah, a folding chair, preferably backless. That would be my prop.
Awesome. Yes, and I think it's the perfect prop for now, because when we go back to the studios, it's like the one prop that you can wipe. You can wipe in between uses. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. And something else you would like to the audience of the video podcast to know about yourself, about your practice?
Yeah. So let's see. So much. I love cats. I have 5 cats. So I highly encourage you to check me out on Instagram to see all their antics, and then, you know, maybe some yoga in the background. And yeah, and if you guys enjoy props and working with props, that I have a whole online library, and I'm also doing this super cool yoga training that's called Reignite Your Yoga Teaching Skills, that focuses on purposeful propping and sequencing. So like, if you feel that you want to learn more variations and the why behind those variations, as well as the context of how to fit them into a yoga sequence, then that's starting in February 2021.
Ooh, amazing. Yay. So where can people find you? Promote yourself, all your information.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Instagram at Allison Ray Jeraci. Check out the ARJ Yoga Hub, the training, and I have a bunch of online articles with Yoga International, with Yoga U Online. So I'm all over the place.
Amazing. Thank you so much. If you're watching this video, go and follow Allison. You're not going to regret it. It's like daily inspiration about the way on how to use props. And at the end of the day, about trusting yourself and giving yourself permission to play and to create. So do it. Go and follow. Anything else you would like to share? Any advice for yoga teachers?
Yeah, have fun in the exploration. Don't take anything for granted and have fun. Play.
Amazing. And we just saw a cat going behind you. Yeah, there. Oh, who is this baby?
That's Rocky.
Oh, beautiful. I love when your cats appear. Sometimes I think you're preparing for class and in the blankets, the cats.
All the time. And that's pretty much why I have so many props. People ask me, why do you have so many props? It's like, I need a blanket for this one. I need a chair for this one. So
amazing. That's an amazing thing about practicing at home. I also love that I can be with my dog the whole day.
Trixie Pixie.
Yes, my baby. She's now sleeping. Too early for her. Thank you so much, Allison, for talking with me, talking with the audience of the Yoga for All Bodies video podcast. Thank you for being here, because this is a message that we really need to share, that everybody can practice yoga, that props are amazing, and that yoga is for everybody.
Oh, thank you so much, Natalia. I really appreciate the opportunity and being here with you all. And I couldn't agree more. Props for life.
Yes, forever. And for everybody. Thank you so much. And if you're watching this video, like it, share it, subscribe, because we need to share this message. Yoga is for all bodies. Thank you one more time, Allison. See you soon. See you at your house. A big hug. And I will see you in a new episode of the Yoga for All Bodies video podcast. Bye.